is Peter King back here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Peter?
Rich, everything's okay. How about you?
It's good. I appreciated you texting me on my vacation to see how I was taking in the Michigan game while I was overseas. I appreciated your text.
Terrible for you. You couldn't see the game.
No. They don't. The NCAA, for all of its money grabbing, I don't think they had an overseas streaming partner, which is nuts to me.
Hey, Rich, I got an email to my column this week from a guy who lives in the Faroe Islands, Faroe,
okay,
which is 200 miles north of Scotland.
Okay.
In the North Sea.
Okay.
And I was so incredulous that I got an email from the Faroe Islands. I called him and I said, "Man, how do you know the NFL?" He goes, "Hey, NFL Game Pass. I watch NFL Red Zone every Sunday."
Hey, I'm telling you, the Brit.
He lives in the Faroe Islands, Rich.
I'm telling you, the UK does love the NFL, Peter. That is real.
Yeah,
it is real. And I know a lot of fans are like, "Well, I got to play games over there." You know, it's just really just trying to break into a market. It's just about dollars and cents. I really do. I had conversations, and like I told you, this in our texts. This past year, some Brits who I spoke to said that Shaquem Griffin even broke through the news over there.
Yeah,
in the UK.
Great. Yeah,
you know,
that's really cool.
So we're 20 days from the first round of the draft. What's Cleveland doing, kicking the tires on everybody right now? Best you can tell, Peter.
You know, Rich, I think that when Joe Thomas got hurt last year, I remember having this conversation with him about the Browns and about Sashi Brown and about the whole plan there. And the whole plan was to accumulate a ridiculous, historic number of draft picks, build much of the infrastructure, like particularly on both lines, and then, finally, get all your skill players and get your quarterback and all that. And I mean, I think one of the reasons that Sashi Brown got fired is that they just had too many guys who didn't seem that they were those guys, who were the infrastructure guys for the next 8 or 10 years. And so, but I do think that this year, the Browns are not in, hey, let's stop. No, they are in the let's stop gathering draft picks and let's start building a team that we could start to win with. And so that's why I think they go 2 best players at 1 and 4. They'll take a quarterback at number 1. My guess would be Darnold or Josh Allen. And then they would go with best player on their board at number 4. And that'll be, in my opinion, either Saquon Barkley or Chubb.
So they'd take Chubb and stick him on the other side of Myles Garrett and go to battle on that defensive side, that they get the maybe trigger man for the next decade and a half if they're lucky, with Jarvis Landry and Josh Gordon. I mean, how does that not win 8 games? I'll be honest, Peter. I know that a lot of people might think that's crazy, but that defense was ready.
But hang on. But hang on.
With Tyrod Taylor, too.
It could win 8 games in 2019, but in 2018, you have to count on Tyrod Taylor being a really good quarterback. I don't know that he is one. He might be. The people who've been with him, and all the sort of analytics people, the Pro Football Focus people, they love Tyrod Taylor.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I haven't seen it. I mean, I'm from Missouri on Tyrod Taylor. I like him, but I have not seen him. You watch the game against Jacksonville, you say, God, make a play. But again, Jacksonville's good.
Okay, so we know then they're taking a quarterback at the top. What is happening with the Giants then? That means that they hold all the cards.
The Giants hold all the cards, and they can either get probably 3 1s and something from Buffalo to move down to 12. But the only way they do that, in my opinion, is if Dave Gettleman and Pat Shurmur convince John Mara and Steve Tisch, in essence, it's not really that way. But if they convince the rest of the building that, listen, we're fine with Eli for the next 2 years. He's fit as a fiddle. he'll be fine for the next 2 years. Now, if I were them, I'd take a quarterback at number 2 and I'd resist temptation. But you have to really like one of the quarterbacks. And, whether it's Rosen, whether it's Allen, whether it's Baker Mayfield, you're going to have to or Darnold if he doesn't go 1, then you really have to start saying to yourself, okay, we have to be sure with one of those guys at number 1. And I'll tell you this, Rich. I was talking to an NFL draft decider, the guy who's going to make his picks in 20 days for his team. We were talking, and I said, how concerned are you with what Jim Mora said about Josh Rosen? And he goes, quite concerned. And because he said that's a guy who lived with Josh Rosen for 3 years. And he obviously has some questions about him. But be that as it may, the interesting part of the conversation beyond that was that he said that if I were a quarterback at the top of this draft, I would pray to go to the New York Giants. Because Eli Manning not only is a great guy and a really good player, but you're going to be behind him and you are going to learn how to play quarterback in the NFL. This guy will help you. And look, hey, Josh McCown will help you too. And I think Josh McCown is a coach on the field and all that stuff. He'd be great. But I think there'd be something to play with Eli Manning for 2 years that would be great for any of those guys. If I were the Giants and could get Josh Rosen in with Eli Manning for 2 years, I would absolutely love that if I were a Giants fan.
Well, a couple things you just said I want to expound upon in the couple minutes I have left with you. Peter King of the MMQB. Let's take the Jim Mora stuff. He's coming on this show on Thursday. I heard him on Dan's show. Before that, he was on the NFL Network. He's been on Path to the Draft all week. He said that this stuff has been misconstrued, that he has been as positive about this kid, that he loves him, and that a lot of this stuff is being spun. You spoke to him. Did you, when you spoke with him, get the sense that he had some reservations about Josh Rosen being a professional quarterback of franchise note?
I would say the only reservation that I sensed from him is whether he was going to be absolutely, totally 100% all in. Because he's got a lot of other things in his life that he likes to do. And I bring up Josh Freeman. Okay. Josh Freeman failed in Tampa for a lot of reasons, foremost of which was that he didn't want to work on Tuesdays during the season. And, there's 31 other quarterbacks who did want to work on Tuesday, not necessarily 10 hours, but 6, and you just have to do that. If you're a quarterback in the NFL, you got to walk in the building Wednesday and have a good idea about what the game plan is, because you've already been talking about it with your coordinator and quarterback coach. But that's really about the only thing. I think that Jim Mora, the vast majority of what he told me last Sunday was positive on Josh Rosen. That seemed to have gotten lost in the wash. I don't blame people for picking out some of the things, but I do blame people for picking out only the quasi-negative things, the millennial stuff, all that stuff. Jim Mora, in 88% of the conversation that I had with him, was very positive about Josh Rosen.
Well, and then you mentioned as a trade partner for the Giants that could net them a ton of first-round picks, et cetera, being the Buffalo Bills. Sam Darnold is being tire kicked by the Broncos today, sitting there at 5. And then the Patriots, as you know, have 2 first-round selections. Suss out.
I would be shocked if the Patriots moved up into the area of the top 4 quarterbacks. Rich, how can they do that? They need a left tackle. They need to rebuild this team right now, and they can't take all of their draft capital and move up to whatever it is. I mean, think about it. It's probably not even sensible for the Giants to take 3 ones to go down to number 12.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah, they needed to restock 2. So then
so how are the Patriots going to move way up?
So then suss out the trade market. Is it really just the Bill? I mean, because the Broncos are sitting there at 5. Again, if If the first name that comes out of Roger Goodell's mouth in 20 days is Josh Allen, then the Giants' phone, Dave Gettleman's phone line is white hot to the touch at that point in time.
I agree.
Right?
I totally agree. So we'll see if they do anything. My gut feeling is they would take Sam Darnold at number 2, and then the Jets would take Mayfield or Rosen at number 3. But those are all guesses. Let me just say one other thing, Rich.
Yep.
How can there be a trade up in there? There would be a trade, I believe, either with Miami or Buffalo. If when Indianapolis picks at number 6. Now, Chris Ballard, I believe, would love to go down a few spots so that one of his top 4 or 5 picks, all non-quarterbacks, would still be available, and he can pick up another, say, second and maybe a 4 to move down to the range of 11 or 12. I think if the Colts could do that, they would.
Last one for you, Peter. What happened? Where did RG3 come from? How did that come on the radar screen?
I have no idea. I didn't even know he was under consideration. He's one of those guys who was so far under the radar. And in my opinion, this is one of those deals that the Baltimore Ravens should quite literally put this guy on their roster, maybe as a 3, but maybe a 2, and just keep him for the year. Get him back into football shape. Get him back into a good quarterback room, with Flacco, and basically see what you've got at the end of this year entering into 2019. If I were them, that's how I'd do it.
PK, let's chat again soon, and we'll definitely see you down in Dallas. Thanks for the time.
Thanks a lot, Rich. You
bet.
Take care.
Yeah, that's Peter King at SI_Peter King.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern on Audience.